What are your rights to protest on the streets and sidewalks? We'll discuss that in just a minute. My name is Rowland. I'm a First Amendment attorney with the National ACLU. Under the First Amendment, the courts have identified a few areas that are termed public forums. What that means are there places where your First Amendment rights are at their absolutely most robust. Those three places are streets, sidewalks, and public parks. So what rights do you have to engage in speech and association and protest in those public forum spaces? Well, the answer is you have a lot of rights, but you can have more rights when you have a permit, and that includes blocking the streets. So the Women's March is a great example of a protest that involved permits to block traffic and block the streets. As images from Washington, D.C. from January of 2017 show, you would have been hard-pressed to drive a car down the streets pretty much anywhere in downtown D.C. the day of the Women's March. Traffic couldn't get through, and yet, despite that standstill, there was not a single arrest of any protester. Was this okay? Were these protesters protected when they shut down the streets of Washington, D.C.? The answer is absolutely. The organizers of the Women's March reached out to Metro Police in D.C. and got permits to do precisely what those powerful images showed us: flood the streets, thousands strong, hundreds of thousands strong. Now, could you just go out tomorrow on a Saturday with 200 of your closest friends and shut down your street? That's a little more complicated. As a general rule, the First Amendment permits you to engage in speech, to engage in protest on streets and sidewalks in parks with a pretty big asterisk. You cannot, without a permit, engage in intentional obstruction. That just means getting in the way. So if you're in the street, you can't intentionally jump out in front of a car. And if you're in a park, it means you can't block the way, so no other pedestrians can use the park. Same goes for sidewalks, right? If you're on the sidewalk and you force someone to step off the sidewalk and go into the street because you're intentionally blocking it, that can be a problem. In practice, that means when you go out to protest on a sidewalk, you do it one or two people deep. In practice, if you're going to march down a street, you have to stay in the breakdown lane. And in a park, it means that you have to make sure that there are paths for other pedestrians to go through and walk around your protest. So you have an absolute First Amendment right to get out there, make your voice heard. You do not, without a permit, have an absolute right to intentionally gather to stop traffic, whether it's vehicle or pedestrian traffic, under the First Amendment. My name is Rowland. I'm a free speech attorney with the National ACLU, and you're watching Talks on Law.